Renewal Commission meeting together. Can we have a roll call?
Yes. Commissioner Neely?
Here.
Commissioner Pauley?
Here.
Commissioner Smith?
Here.
Commissioner Yates? Commissioner Mum?
Here.
Commissioner Roth? And Vice Chair Edgar?
Here. Do we have any proclamations or presentations to be made? Okay, seeing none. Any citizen comments? Seeing none. Do we have anybody moving to adopt the agenda? Okay. The agenda's adopt. Okay, so our first item in general business is the train depot design update.
Okay.
I guess Eric's our man.
That's me. That's quick. My computer's still booting up. So, I wanted to take this opportunity to bring the train depot tenant improvement designs back to the commission. There's been a question about the one of the design elements, the windows that are featured. It's on. I think you have this as an attachment, the design drawings. It's on page.
We don't have that pretty picture.
You don't? Oh, well.
Not in color.
I'll hold it up for you. But
We have like a,
Black and white.
yeah.
actually, the architect's here, so he can hold up the color picture while I talk.
Okay.
So-
Woo.
But on page A201, you'll see the windows that we're incorporating. They're in an existing frame, so we're just expanding them. As you see, the ones in the middle there, they're now, they used to be loading doors. So the windows would be constructed inside that frame for the loading doors. The one on the far end, the windows, the way they are now, they're just I think it's just an upper level window. They would be expanded to reach the deck there. And then there's another one on the east elevation. Right now it's just about what would you say, about a 2x4 window with some bars on it. That really doesn't add in a lot of natural light. And that's the whole purpose of these windows, is to introduce natural light into the space to display that there is activity in the building, that there is something going on there. However,
Are these windows to be wood or metal framed?
They're. Go ahead.
The goal is to keep the wood frames and put in new insulated glass within the wood frame.
Right. So there was a question that came up about the historical integrity, and that's why I'm bringing it before you tonight. This building is not considered a historical building. However, if the commission wanted to apply to have it to be an official historical building in the future, then there might be some compromise to that historical integrity with these windows.
What's the upside and downside?
Well, the upside, of course, is to incorporate additional natural light inside the building, and
doing it historically.
Well, historically, you want to speak to that?
Great questions. Moving the train depot to its existing location on the platform and alterations, it's not really eligible for a local landmark, for a local designation. It's right at that gray area. I mean, by moving it, putting it on on the new platform, you kind of start losing what it's for. That's not saying that it can't be. It's a harder case. So my recommendation to Eric was, the City Commission and the Urban Renewal can kind of have the option to look at it both ways, really. You can view it, because it's a city-owned building, as a lens of you want to keep as much historic integrity as it's existing, and that can be your own kind of City Commission criteria or Renewal Commission criteria. But I'd actually almost have it that way, that you're giving direction because it's a city-owned building, not necessarily that it's eligible for listing as a landmark, a local landmark, because it's really right at the threshold. By it's moving twice and putting it on the platform, you're losing a lot of its context of what it is. It's a lot harder to make that argument that it could be just because the integrity of the exterior. Not said if that's something the city commission really wants, it does meet kind of the minimum threshold. But the larger question is, you own the building, so you can give direction to Eric of how you want to view that lens. So I would rather kind of look at it this way, and what we can do, and I can help with, and the architect can give kind of direction to that. But I think that's an easier way to look at it rather than trying to fit it in the traditional local designation framework, because it's an odd one, It's not your normal traditional historic building, and because it was moved, because it's been altered, because it's been put on that platform. So I don't have a specific answer for you, but that was kind of the direction I gave back to Eric was you kind of have the benefit to go both directions. If you as a commission said, it's totally been altered, we no longer see this as historically significant, and we're just going to do an adaptive reuse, and we're fine with that, that'd probably be fine too on the historic level. If he said, we want to not touch a hair on the outside of it, and we just value that, that's fine too. I mean, it's really since you own the property. But historic-wise, on a staff level, I would probably really be working with SHPO if you really, really wanted to locally designate it, just to verify that it's still regained its historic significance as a local landmark. I couldn't, right here on the spot, say, yes, it absolutely meets all the criteria.
So, if I could just add too that the windows here that are proposed are actually, they serve a purpose. They're not just an architectural feature. The one on the east elevation, the commission in approving the use, they've you wanted a kind of a patron area for the Amtrak patrons. And so we've incorporated that into the design. And so this window on the east elevation is to allow those patrons to view out onto the tracks for when the train is actually coming. Right now they can't do that the way the window is. And so it's just, it serves a purpose for the new use. But again, the purpose of tonight is just to weigh those two.
You got already people. Sorry.
Okay. I was looking at the pictures. And
I was so too. I see Betty's up.
Okay. All right.
Excuse me.
My question is, on that land, is there a plaque that explains about the home, not the Home Depot, the depot, the history?
I don't believe there's a plaque
There's a
displaying
lot
the
of-
history.
I don't remember seeing it, but it could be there.
No.
There's a lot of plaques there, but I can't
There's a
remember what
plaque
they
there. It talks about the
specify.
move and
Yeah.
the Amtrak railway. But
He can answer it.
I'll step forward. I'm Kevin Johnson, GBD Architects, the architect that's been working with Eric on the project. And there is a plaque there, but it's exactly what Eric said. It just speaks to the move. It talks about who was involved with it. We actually had to do a little extra work to even find any of the history on it. From what we understand, it was not originally a train station. It was a building that was associated with trains. Seeing some nods here, so I think that's what we understand.
Okay, and then the other thing, is there a price difference on the windows if we go, and what is that price?
it would have a price impact. I don't think we have a.
Without windows? Well, certainly, yeah, there'd be a big savings
Yeah.
in not putting the windows in.
Right, and then if we went with the historic windows, what would be the?
To go to historic versus putting a brand new kind of window
Right.
frame in there.
Right.
It'd be something we definitely want to bring a contractor on board and look at the pricing difference. It may be cheaper to go with the wood frame that's existing there, just buying the sealed window panes and then stopping them into place. Could be less money than trying to fit in a new
Okay.
shelf.
Yeah,
window.
we haven't gotten to the stage where we've had a GC on board to give us a cost estimate
Okay.
on that. So.
Thank you.
Okay. Doug?
No, I don't know who would make the call, and it's in terms of historic preservation. The Urban Renewal Agency, I guess, owns the station. So, from my standpoint, I mean, the reason Mr. Fowler, I think, went and got it was because of its historic significance. It would have, it was moved. My understanding it was moved to Portland. It was probably going to be destroyed. He got notified, and he went to the trouble of bringing it back. And I think it was because the fact that it was, in fact, associated, I understood, with freight, not a station, but I don't know that
Right.
for a fact. But even though it's not its original location and so forth, has that much been done to the exterior of the building itself?
I think looking at all the contemporary doors, this is my memory of walking around it. And of course, this is kind of an on-the-spot comment, but when you look at historic significance, you're going to look at was it related to a specific person? This is for local, and that's also for national, but for our local designation criteria. Specific person, is it related to specific events that happen? Is the integrity of the structure there, especially integrity of the architecture of the structure? And every time you kind of peel away pieces of that, do you have enough to meet one of those criteria? And moving it does a lot. Moving it twice, putting it up on the platform, having the alterations of all the contemporary doors, so that you're starting to peel away a lot of the integrity issues. So you're saying you're at this gray area where you could easily make the findings that it is not eligible for local. And I think the gray area finding that it is eligible, you would have to go do more research and work. And, it's gray enough that it could, but I can't, to make that kind of statement here without having further consultation. Because the moment it's not just moving, because like the Simon Benson house was moved down the street and completely restored and on the park blocks, and it's that little individual move didn't change it because it was the building was in great architectural integrity and was related to Simon Benson. So that move didn't necessarily change it too much. It didn't change it too far. So there's a lot of what ifs in each particular issue. So that's something we could pursue, but it's really a gray area. It's more of what do you want to do as an urban renewal agency and city commission, not necessarily what box does it fit in. It's kind of really irrelevant in the bigger picture.
Carol?
Yes, I'm glad we're having this discussion because I've seen so many remodels where I don't think they've had the discussion, where it's painfully clear that it's been added here and there, kind of patched together. How many windows is it adding, and are they going to match the existing windows?
Just a minute, I'll do a quick count here. The 21 panes of glass that are going into place, they're put in together in 4 pods in most cases. So in the actual pods or doors, if you will, where they're set in, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those, and then we are adding another piece of glass to one of the doors as well. So there's a significant amount of glass that comes into play that's being added.
In your opinion, will they look, when they're all put in, if they were put in, would they look like the other ones?
Yeah, I think that they would. The what was Christina was alluding to is that unfortunately there were some newer doors put into this that are kind of standard metal doors, and they've got the insulated glass, so they're going to be matching that glass for sure. And then we would certainly be looking at the frames all match the existing building in that way.
Okay.
I honestly I can't tell you exactly what the other glasses are, so we'd have to take a look and try and match their colors and reflectivity and that kind of thing.
Thank you.
Okay, guess Rocky, you're up.
I was wondering if you could pass the other photos around, or the other pictures, because on the existing it's a big black dot with some windows in it. And
It's, yeah.
Okay. So I guess my comments, I'm glad you talked about the Simon Benson house, because I was thinking, okay, if the classification of a building being historic is moved around town, that would exclude every one that we have in the city.
I think so.
In the 1850s.
It's more than just being moved.
Right. I guess the discussion about whether or not we want to make this a historic building. I think most people in Oregon City assume that all of our historic buildings in Oregon City are designated historic, and they're not. There's very few of them that are, and to say a building is historic is different than saying it's actually designated as a historic building. because to me this is a historic building. It's just not on the. It's just not designated that. So, I mean, that's a whole discussion in itself if we want to go there. I guess my concern would be, yes, things have been done to this building to take it maybe farther away from that designation, but we don't want to do anything more than has already been done. Mm-hmm. So if putting new windows takes it even farther, then I don't want any part of it. But I also understand in order for that building to be used in any, realistic way, because the way that the building is centered in terms of the traffic from the people getting off and on the train, I mean, there's only certain things that are, just because where the current doors and windows are, it's not, they're not set up for the way the building necessarily is positioned. So I see in order for us to use it, there's going to have to be some changes. I just don't want the changes to take us farther from its historic character than it is. So I think that's my only comment on that. The other thing is, are we being asked to approve this tonight, or are we being asked to just have a discussion about where we go from here?
Well, it'd be preferable if the commission could decide on which way they would like to go in order for us to proceed with hiring a general contractor and getting
because
it
the
approved.
price
But
tag.
you're not approving the design tonight.
You're not approving the design. We just would like
Are
to
we
know.
approving the price tag?
We've already approved in the budget for $45,000 for
Right,
tenant
but not
improvement.
790 whatever that's on our staff report. 790,000 something?
No.
$793.
$793.
$793.
So that it scared me.
Here, you want mine?
Well, they are double pane windows.
Thank goodness for that.
Okay, now I'm going to go back to that.
Now he's breathing better.
Okay, I have no other questions.
The 793 is just the process to go through the minor AR for approval.
Thank you.
David, you're up.
Thank
That
you,
was a big
Mr. Chairman.
clarification.
Well, I want to suggest that the commission might entertain giving us the direction, basically, that Commissioner Smith just summarized, which is to first do no harm, sort of
Right.
like the Hippocratic Oath. And actually, I think if we challenge our architect, we might be actually able to. I would like to see if there's a way. What we really need to do is try to make the building more usable, get more natural light, and
Yeah.
do some of these things.
Yep.
While also, if it costs a little more, to maintain the way it looks as far as it. We want it to look historic, even no matter
Right.
what the designation
Even
is,
though it
right?
doesn't, yeah.
So we want it to look charming and like it somewhat does now, but we also want it to be functional. And I think if that's the charge, even if it means, for example, changing out an existing modified door
Yeah.
that looks like it belongs on a 1980s structure, but it really doesn't belong on this one. Rather than making the new windows look like it, I'd like to make it look like the old, so that we actually have a step forward
Right.
in the charm of this structure. Do you think that's something you would like to take on?
Absolutely, yeah. I really appreciate that direction 100%. We were trying to be somewhat economical and just saying what's existing and can we take some baby steps. And the steps you're saying are not huge steps either. I think that there's, and that would be the process with getting general contract board, really pricing those things. And I agree 100%.
Somewhere
I think those are the
between
direction.
$793 and $7,000.
That would be a good range to be in.
That's all I had, Mr. Chairman. I would entertain
I-
getting that direction from the commission when you're so inclined.
Doug is up.
I know, for example, homes that are on a historic inventory have, in fact, had modifications cleared by our historic review board as long as they were consistent with the architecture of the building. I mean, that's happened before.
Absolutely. I mean,
And so, I actually, my preference, first of all, I think I have no problem adding additional windows as long as they're consistent with what's there. I mean, people that have owned were part of those historic buildings probably modified their homes during the period of time they had them. So that doesn't bother me. My personal feeling is make these additions consistent with the architecture of the house. Changing the doors is great.
Absolutely.
And actually get it on our local inventory.
Well, that's a decision that the Urban Renewal Commission can make, and when you do that, we can.
Yeah.
I can move forward in the
I
process
just-
and
I
have
just think,
consultation with SHPO.
You know, it's there. I mean, the reason for buying that depot is whether what its specific role was in the history of Oregon City, I don't know either. I've been told some stuff, but the point is that we got it because it fit us, and it's going to be a gateway. Assuming we're going to have Amtrak coming for a period of time, it's going to be one of the gateways here.
Well,
so.
one thing I can do in the meantime is working with GDB. We can get SHPO to at least give a finding of
Sure.
that you know it's not it
Yeah.
it meets the Secretary of Interior standard, which is what in a sense we use in house. We have our own additions to the Secretary of Interior standard for Oregon City, but. You know, if that's something you want to make you feel comfortable, that's an easy thing that we can work with SHPO to get that. They do kind of those letters, even when you, as kind of a courtesy when cities ask.
We're currently, our office is redoing the U.S. Customs House in downtown Portland, 1901 project, and right in line with what Christina's saying. They gladly will come down. You know, they'd love to walk through and talk to you about what's important and what's not that important to them, but still might be important to us. So, yeah.
Great.
My opinion, after having rebuilt basically an 1880 house, and gone through all of these decisions and what to do and try to be smart, at the end, when my wife and I decided we were going to live in the house for the rest of our lives, we made some decisions which were based upon functionality too. And I had to walk these lines with Christina and the HRB all the time, trying to make sure that we were consistent with the historic structure. But it's like these windows so that people could view out onto the tracks to see what's happening. If we're going to make this a train station for people to come in and be in there and want to look out in the tracks, we need to have a window there that adapts to that purpose. And so, but things like doors, for sure, these metal doors or these things that are not appropriate for this building. But the building to me has all of the architectural types of everything that it needs to be a historic building. And whether SHPO or somebody says yes or no, we know what it is, and we know that it's an asset, and we should be doing like what Rocky said, making sure that we're complementing it, not detracting from it. That's and anything that we look at it, if somebody looks at it and sees something that detracts, just as a point, they're remodeling a building on 8th and Main Street, and the transom lights or windows up above, they're swapping them out, and they actually contracted with a local company up on Central Point Road to redo all of the wood windows there. So it was actually money circulating in Oregon City. The contractor, it's actually a manufacturer. He got a local sash person to go in there and do the stuff, but they're calling them. So we have the ability here in Oregon City to actually fab virtually anything to any historic design that you want, and keep the activities local. So
Great.
Something people should look at if people don't know.
Absolutely. So what direction do you need from us? You need us to...
Well, I think I've got it.
You've got it?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think
Great.
Okay.
we'll just work. The three of us will work together and kind of going back and
Good.
rehashing the design a little bit more toward the historical character, and then we'll come back to you. A motion would be great.
Have we?
But I have a motion to that effect so that we may have it on the record what the direction was. Because sometimes, we remember things differently.
No, really? Anything I remember is correct.
Yeah, that's a real
Okay,
thing.
so I would make that motion.
The motion
To word it, Eric?
Work with the planning department and the HRB and GDB architects to go back and revise the window design for toward a more historical character, and then come back to the commission.
Can I ask?
Second.
There's a second.
Go ahead. What was
I
your
was just
comment?
going to ask that if the part of that is that we could actually seek and get the general contractor on board, that'd be great towards the pricing of this and
Yeah.
towards the options.
Yes.
Yes.
Sure.
That would be perfect. That,
Okay,
yes.
including having a general contractor come on board
Yes.
to facilitate it.
I made that motion.
And the second was
Okay.
Commissioner Polly. Okay.
We have any question? Is there a question? Not, let's call for a vote.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for coming out
Thank
here.
you.
Thank
That's
you.
great.
I greatly appreciate it. It's a cute building.
Yes,
It's really fun to
it
do.
definitely is.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
Well, the next item up is the reevaluation of the potential of 922 Main Street. Eric?
Right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to actually request that we table this discussion tonight. Some very recent events happened this afternoon where we have received an offer to purchase the property from a client. It happened about 3:30. So
Very good.
That's
I would just
great.
like to table this discussion and then have this on an
Absolutely.
executive.
I'd be happy to table that.
Yes.
Move to
For
table.
good reason.
Second. No, we
Okay,
do we
let's,
actually?
let's been moved to table.
Hit it.
Let's go. Let's move on.
Okay, great.
Do we have to vote?
Let's
Yeah, let's
Sure.
see.
Okay.
I did
Kathy
it.
and I seconded. Or I said Kathy. Sorry,
I
Ben.
know you did. That's all right. I answered to a lot of it.
Rocky, we
I
would need your vote there.
You need your vote
Oh, I guess I should vote.
since you
It
seconded.
was apparently
Motion to
about 2
table
months
passes.
ago or 3 months ago, I referred to
Thank you.
Nancy Wiseman as... I did it again. Kathy Wiseman is Nancy Wiseman.
Okay, our next item up on the agenda is Stimson property transfer potentials.
Okay, this is a continuation of a discussion that we had in July or August of last year. So it was originally was associated with the Jug Handle project, transferring property from the city to the Urban Renewal Commission in exchange for the 12th and Main. So that's where we were. I think we were talking about the benefits, the pros and cons to doing that. And so I'm just bringing the discussion back to the commission tonight.
If I might add to what Eric's saying, the commission has already discussed this and resolved it once, but I think one of you wanted to bring it back for another round of discussion. So that's why it's back in front of you tonight. So, Paul?
Do we?
Is that?
Okay, I'll request to speak. Historically, we've had it around, and we've wanted to do something with it, to kind of come up with something, and 12th and Main had been described as one place. But if that's not something that we want to facilitate, what other possible places are there that we could do? In my philosophy in making the statement about this is in a sense making the Urban Renewal Commission or agency well from the monies that they have spent in the past, not for virtually any other reason, just to say we bought property in good faith within the Urban Renewal Commission that was basically in commercial industrial use. It was taken and made into wetlands and water retention ponds. And we paid X amount of money for it. And if there was some way that we could find something that could be brought back into urban renewal coffers, you might say, where we were more proactive on trying to convert it. And when we did convert it, then it would create revenue that would be equal, in a sense, coming back into the urban renewal for the monies that we'd spent earlier. So that's the intent, at least in my mind.
To that point, urban renewal land, whether it's owned by the commission, the Urban Renewal Commission, or the city, it's still within the urban renewal district. You're still able to use urban renewal money to mitigate that site. It just comes down to a matter of the sale. So with the urban renewal owned land, it falls under the ORS of fair reuse value, which means that once someone is interested in buying that property, you have to get a fair reuse value. You have to get an appraisal for the fair reuse value. That means that it's appraised depending on how that property is going to be built out. So what's going to be on that property as an end product, that's going to be appraised that way. And then the commission has to sell it for that price. But if they want to reduce it, then they have to justify the reductions for the reductions from the fair reuse value. Whereas if the city owns it, there's a little more flexibility. They don't fall under that clause. There's more flexibility in negotiating the property. So, again, it's within the urban renewal district. It's just a matter of ownership, and if what the urban renewal commission would like, the reason why they would like to own the property. Do they want to get it developed, or do they want to sell it and get it developed? Do they want to make a profit off of it? So that's really the question, and that's really the only difference as far as ownership.
In the fiscal side of this, and again, my opinion, it's about the monies that came in from all of the contributing entities that contribute money to the Urban Renewal Commission for us to reinvest. And it's if the property is in the city's hand, no money comes back to those people. And so it's only in this area, to me, it's making sure that somewhere along the line that we provide a return on investment to, in a sense, our stockholders, which are the contributing entities that come into, that provide money in to the Urban Renewal Commission.
Except that we are. Those taxing entities that, well, to back up, the URA contributed the land to the Jug Handle project, and the URA and the taxing entities you're speaking about all benefited from that project. So that project helped every entity and every property owner in the project boundaries. So to say you want to enhance return on investment to benefit URA on a number sheet at the expense of the city wouldn't be something I could recommend, because I also work for the city. And I know we talked about this last time we were together, but this is it's kind of a circular argument, because those entities that want to see that blight, I mean, this project does help eliminate blight, and that's the primary purpose of urban renewal. So in my view, urban renewal should have done exactly what they did and contributed this property. And because it was undevelopable, it was basically didn't have any value to you anyway. So the fact that you could get, even if the city was willing to do some kind of horse trade here to make it look better on a numbers sheet, it wouldn't make a material difference. The project benefited the district.
Well, is there any reason why we couldn't just then move it away from, so that there is no liability back against the Urban Renewal Commission, so that the title of it, so if there's, it's almost like a outstanding liability that's sitting there, and if in fact that's the case, and it's an agreement of everyone to say that it's that good, well, let's just say it's no longer redevelopable property, and it should be then put into Parks and Rec or into Public Works or someplace, but take it away from being on the ledger of urban renewal.
Can I speak?
Yeah.
The property, the Simpson property itself, I went down there, ignore the no trespassing sign, and
That comes with the mayor's title.
well, it was actually for a different purpose. But what I was surprised at was the fact that actually a lot of material has been taken out of there, but actually it has not gone down to a wetland value area. It's not holding much water. I think there's still, and I don't know if it makes any difference if the city owns it or the Urban Renewal Agency, I think there's still the potential for cut and fill in this particular site. We used, I guess, what we needed for the Jug Handle project, and we're able to get some more out of it in the process. But I still think there's some cut and fill opportunities there, and the opportunities to actually make it more of a wetland site than it is.
To enhance the wetlands area?
Yes.
Yeah, I would imagine so. You could enhance the wetlands area.
And but
As
benefit
far as-
also the development in the floodplain in the process.
Right, right. So, I mean, that can be done. It's just
Yes.
the development as far as the structure cannot.
I think it looks good, but
So what do you need from us?
Well, I guess I need to know if the commission is wanting to swap the 12th and Main lot swap the Simpson property for the 12th and Main lot as far as ownership. I will remind you that even if the Urban Renewal Commission owns property when the Urban Renewal District is complete, when it's done, it reverts back to the city. If we were to take in new properties from the city, then we would have to amend the Urban Renewal Plan, which would take some work to do, and some public involvement, of course. And I will also, this is public because they've been through the planning process. We're trying to work a deal with a client now on the 12th and Main property. And they are looking for as much flexibility as possible on developing this site because it does come with a lot of constraints. For an example, we're looking at infrastructure, utility lines, sewer lines, water lines that are 100 years old or more, and they're running through the middle of the property. So that's just one example. So they're looking at as much flexibility as they can acquire in developing the site. So.
well, personally, I don't have any desire to own 12th and Main. I'm just trying to figure out how to make kind of the ledger look good.
Yeah.
And this.
Well, I keep referring to 12th and Main because that's where this issue started, and that's kind of the subject, and that's what we were asked to bring back to the table. And it's morphed a little bit since then. We've had discussions of other properties, but if the commission would like for staff to look into the other properties and potential swaps. I mean, it's not on the goals for the city commission to do that kind of thing for this year, but I mean, we'll just throw that out there.
Well, that was the reason why I looked at the properties north of McDonald's as an example of the properties.
I think we've talked about this quite a bit. Go ahead, Kurt.
Yeah.
Do we need a motion then?
Yes.
I don't think that you need a
Unless you
motion.
want-
I think
unless you
just
want
some
transfer.
direction, yes.
If you want transfer review.
Yes.
If you want to ask the city commission if they want to make a trade with you, then you need a motion. If
No.
you don't, then there wouldn't be any motion necessary because this would just die for lack of any action.
Okay.
But it would be clear that,
We're done with this?
I hope so.
Good.
Are we?
Okay.
Thank
If
you.
that's the will, that's the way it is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there anything else? I guess we're to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of January 16th.
I move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Do we have a vote?
Excuse me, my fault.
Passes unanimously, 5-0.
Okay. Is there any future agenda items?
We have plenty. We have plenty of those.
I
I
guess.
don't think you're asking us.
I think
Okay.
it's still premature, but at one point I think we'd wanted to have some discussions as to whether we want to extend the Urban Renewal Agency to include part of the Blue Heron site. But at one point, maybe a study session to that effect.
Well, I would recommend that you wait till the planning process on
Yes.
Blue Heron is
Yeah.
completed before you decide.
And we
Because
all
there would
have
probably be
that.
a whole bunch of options after you decide.
That is listed as one of the commission's priorities in 3 years or more.
Yeah.
We've had discussions earlier about the two houses that Urban Renewal owns on Second and Tumwater. Is there anything in the process or in the works on those two houses to change the status?
Not at this time. There have been some preliminary thoughts about it.
Are they empty or are they?
There's one in transition right now. One is occupied.
Just to report back at the
Yeah.
next
We
meeting.
can report
Very
back,
good.
yeah.
I would make a comment that on both sides of 2nd Street, where going back along where Bud's Towing and to the body shop along through that area, what you'll call where Falls View Tavern is. That's in the urban renewal district. A lot of that property right through there in the boundary. But that property has immense potential for redevelopment, and it's really underutilized. And that some of the property that's not in the UGB, but going back against the Bluff or High Street, going along through there, that area, there's a potential for significant investment in Oregon City in that area. And there's also significant potential in investment where those two houses are running from Tumwater up to High Street along through there, that could get into apartments, multi-condos, all sorts of things along those areas. So on both sides through there, there's some significant potential that could bring real dollars, jobs, and an upgraded vision of that area immediately next to the museum. But it has all of the transit potential. It's all there, and it has access, transit, view, and a lot of things. And I would love to think that we would be thinking a little bit out of the box and saying, okay, is there somebody that might really want to bring some money into Oregon City in those locations and help transform those? And
Do we own those?
we own the two houses.
We own the two houses.
Right, we only own the two houses.
But the other area on the other side has, I know that Bud's Towing, when I talked to the owner there one time, he said, I'm willing to sell it.
Well, of course, anybody's willing to
And
sell
he's-
at
but
the
he
price.
said, yeah, but he said that this is he understood that this has better use.
Well, yeah, and you guys are going to report back.
Yeah, the reports that I've seen for the past 15 months are showing that the houses are in transition pretty often. They turn over pretty quickly. So there are some periods of time where we're not even getting rent on those houses, but the maintenance costs are going up because they're getting older, and we paid a lot this past year in maintenance costs for those houses. So it's not really a revenue generator for us. Doesn't seem to be that much of one.
Can you make sure the revenue is going to urban renewal?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It does.
I
but
just want to make sure.
just put it in the back of your mind that the real estate market is going up.
Yes.
And we are having some interest in some of our infill properties where we're finding out that we have some costs that these developers are facing that aren't, they're having a hard time making their project pencil, and could be a chance where we could help offset some of those costs.
Right.
I have
Okay.
one comment. I'm going through the systems transportation plan for Oregon City when we're looking at identified choke points. In the plan, it shows the area of what we call where we contributed $1 million from urban renewal monies into the phase 2 of the North End McLaughlin Enhancement Project. They show major traffic problems coming up in the next period. Yet at the same time, with the $1 million of the project, to the best of my knowledge now, is about $5 million in total from all sources that are going towards it. But there's no transportation or vehicle improvements being contemplated. And I drive through it all the time. And when I see the way the traffic right now backs up from Dunes Drive all the way to the Clackamas River Bridge, and realize that we're putting $5 million into there. So that means without changing the congestion problem. That means that before I die, or I will be, there will never be an improvement there. Because once you put this money in, that area is off the map. It will never be considered. So when people coming into Oregon City And they may be investment people.
Mr. Chairman,
Jobs.
this, if I can, I just want to say that we're on future agenda items right now, and this sounds like an agenda item discussion, and our Public Works Director isn't here. So if you wanted to have that as a future agenda item, we could have him here, or I could bring him back under my reports.
I would love to, because I think we need to make sure we have that gateway flows freely. And right now, the plan shows right here in the map that it will not.
Well, also keep in mind the Blue Heron project is going to have a really big impact on 99. And we've already started having discussions with folks at the federal and state level about that as a possible problem for us that we know we're going to have to take on. So I would suggest to you that I think there will be changes. I don't know what they're going to look like, because I'm not a traffic engineer, but there are going to have to be a lot of changes if we're going to safely get, 500,000 people, new visitors to the falls and in and out of there on a regular basis every year. It's going to take some real design work to make that happen. But if you want to talk to the Public Works Director about the TSP offline, or the Commission wants us to have this as a discussion item at some point, we would be happy to get the right people here.
Yeah, that's
and do
important.
Okay. I saw it, and I've been actively reviewing it
Yeah.
in detail, and it just seemed to be inconsistent with our goals.
Have you provided that feedback to the
I
through the
sent
process?
that directly to John Lewis.
Okay, very good.
I guess, David, you're up.
Okay, sir. We are knee deep, ankle deep, chest deep in budget work right now, and Maria and our whole team in finance, including Wyatt, are doing a great job, and we're going to, I think, have a quite a bit improved budget process this year and document. I think the bigger changes will be the second year, because this is the first year of transition from a one-year budget to a two-year budget. It's not going to save urban renewal quite this much, but on the city side, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars of staff time by the decision the Commission made to go to every other year for budgeting. About 800 hours of staff time goes into preparing that. So with benefits, that's a big price tag. So we're going to be a lot more efficient, and
Thank you.
that's good news.
That's great news.
And that's all I had.
Well, if there's nothing else, anybody, any other comments? Nope. I adjourn.